principle of programming, like a sort of a coding practice that you use to keep your code safe, so that non-static sample string cannot be referenced from a static context. Okay, so let me just do non-static variable. This cannot be expressed from a static context. Now I'm having some what's it called, some couple of errors that I would like try to explain based on how I understand this is working. Here, we have a non-static word, a non-static variable. This word is not set to be static. You know, like I said earlier, when something is static, it is not necessary for you to define, to like creating an instance of that word, an instance of that class with your constructor before you're able to use the constructor and the methods that are available inside it. Now, if care is not taken, that can like probably be a security lapses. So when there are static components, it has access to all other static variables and static methods. But if a particular particular variable or method is not static, you cannot expect something so loose as static to come and access it. It's going to be some sort of this one static. All right. So what I did is to create a word that is set to be static, and I was making reference to that word in a private what's it called? A private method, which is method sample string. So method sample string, even though it's private and limited to this particular class, I set it to be a static what's it called? Which means at the end of the day, this one is actually useless. There's no need for it to be. It cannot be private once it is static. So you have your static method. That word is not gotten from anywhere inside this method. It is gotten from outside it, which is this one. So at the end of the day, it is returning this one inside this particular line to print it out. So that's why you have just the word listed outside here. You can see that before we actually set this thing to be static, it was having some sort of should I say access issue with assessing something that is static from something that is not static. So information hiding can be a way of saying, okay, whatever you are doing inside this thing, I don't want it to be visible. I don't want it to be accessible to anything that is outside this thing. So that is what information hiding is all about. So I don't know if there's any question before we proceed on to the constructor to public class CIT, so that you know that, okay, before this class can be used as an object, this constructor must be called to set the instance of this particular private variables in memory before we continue to run our application. So the straightforward way to do this would have been to say, we comment this one out by removing it and make sure that it's not working, and say, okay, our A is equal to A dot param. Oh, sorry, A param. Our B is equal to B param, C is equal to C param, and on like that. So it will actually take your A to take your A param and set it to the value of your A. So if you now want to make use of this sample class, you can probably come in here and do my sample class CIT is going to be sample class is equal to, so sample class is equal to new sample class CIT, class CIT, then we now have 1, 2, 3. So now what this one is going to do is it will create a new object which should be sample class CIT, and it will put in these values which are expected as a constructor. One private integer B becomes 2. Name of same name declaration. So that's one thing that you can do with argument. You can also say, probably say, okay, int A by default, A parameter by default, you are 0. So that means if I'm declaring this function, and probably one way or the other I did not put A param, it will by default set 0. And whenever I'm making reference to it in that class, it will be referencing 0. But if I put it in the constructor, like I assign the value in the constructor, it will not. It's going to override the value of the 0 that was set as the default value to the new value. So that's that about overloading. So it's both the constructors and the methods that can do overloading. But another thing that you should also note, you see, when we are setting this our public method here, we use this return keyword. Yeah, but whenever you are using constructor, under no instance, under no condition is your constructor going to make use of that return statement. Your constructor does not have any return type. That's why you see this one having a return type. That's why you have int here. This is a return type. This is a return type. It's set to void because it's not returning anything. But there's nothing here. It's just the public type, like okay, the access type and the name. It does not have a return type. That's because it does not have a return type. So your constructor does not have any return type, not even void, anything. But your methods can return void, it can return integer, it can return primitive and non-primitive data, it can return the primitive and the reference data type. So that's something that is worthy of note. So what else is there to talk about the methods and constructors? All right. A constructor must always have the same name as its class. Yes, like I've said earlier, your sample class CIT must always be the same as the class name. But your method, you can have any name that you want to set it as, but you just have to make sure that it's following the ethics and principles of a proper naming standard. So that's that about all I can say about the constructors and keyword. Now, this question 2 says that you should write a Java class to print the message "I love Java programming." All right, so here's what I'm going to do. We've been on this call for 1 hour 15 minutes. That's a very long time. So whatever we are able to do by 15 minutes time, That's what that's where I'll probably be stopping, so that we'll be calling it a day from here. So yeah, progressing from here, the question says we should write a Java class to print the message, I love Java programming. This is pretty straightforward, and you can probably do it in as many way as you can. I would like to build on this our public class, sample class CIT. So this is what I'm going to do. I'm thinking of clearing out all these methods that I've written earlier. Okay. So let me just say, okay, let me give another name. For our Java application, whenever you are writing a class, your class, the syntax of your class must have the access type, the class keyword, and the name of the class, followed by your curly braces. So the syntax is like the access type. I'm not sure there's an official name for it, but that's what I like to call it now. You have the access type, you have the class keyword, then you have your class name, followed by curly braces. Now, your access type, like I've been saying and reiterating over and over again, it can be public, it can be private, it can be static, it can be final. So hold on, let me even check the name for it. It should be somewhere in this. In the course material, it is about a bicycle, if I get it correctly. So you can have your super class of bicycle saying something about the blueprint of your bicycle, like your gears, your pedals, your wheels, your probably your seats or anything. So yeah, or you can have the blueprint, like the main blueprint. Now, if you are now having a specific brand of what's it called, bicycle, you can now say that, okay, oh, this specific brand extends this main class of, like this super class of bicycle, to make use of some public methods and properties of that main of that super class. Now, when you are implementing something, implementation has to do with implementing an interface or a specific function that does something. So it means you are implementing a particular function out of the class, and not necessarily making use of the whole class, but making use of some of the method inside that class. But they are optional, and it's not all the time that you have to make use of that. It's only when it is necessary for you to make use of it in your program. So using this following syntax, we are going to write our Java program. So say public, what's the class name? Let's make it
Static.
we are not going to assign static to this public class, because number one, it's not as if we are going to make references of it in another package or program. We want to run this particular file and make sure that it works. So the next thing I'm going to do is just the class keyword, then the class name. Let me pick someone's name here. Let's say I can see to be some good song here. Let me make use of that one. So we can have a class like this, and followed by our curly braces. So inside our class, this is where we are going to do our what was it called, printing I love Java programming. There is one thing worthy of note. In a particular Java program from a particular Java class, the the entry point of your application is the main function. So the main function has to be public. Setting it to static makes it easy for your compiler to reference it and just running your program. So here you are going to have your public static and your void because that's the return type, like it's not returning anything. So then the name is main as usual, then followed by the input for parameter and then all our curly braces. And now we're now going to say this particular class should print something. So system dot out dot print ln, then let's put in the string I love our programming, even though I hate it with passion. There's nothing to love in this big and robust language. Now we are going to have a problem. The problem we are going to have is that this our application is having 2 entry points. The hello world class is having an entry point mean. This one is also having an entry point mean. So I'm just going to clear this one out, even with our import statements, and let's run this. Hopefully we should not have any problem. Said main method is not found. Oh yes, our main method is missing the what is it called? The string argument function. Sorry, that was just a quick response to something. So we are supposed to, like, if you look at this, our error here, it said main method is not found because there's something missing. This our main method is supposed to have this one. Now, the question is, why am I actually making use of this thing, this particular string args? Let me type it out here before I continue making that here. String. Sorry, it's a list of strings, so it's going to be string args. So that should be it. So the question is, why do I need this particular argument when I'm not even like making use of it in my method, in my main method? Well, like I said earlier, the very first main the starting point of execution for this our program is the main method, and the way we define and declare our main method is supposed to be a public variable, which is supposed to be static. Now, the thing with it is that the Java virtual machine is reading that one as an indicator for it to be where it's going to start